Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the stream. I would like to introduce to you a very lovely, splendid individual, a good friend of ours, Mrs. Nearly said Miss.
Mrs.
Yeah, I've got a real thing when it comes to people if they're married or not, even if I know they are. Mrs. Leanne Thompson. Hello, darling.
Hi. It's nice to hear my whole name. I'm usually just Mrs. T. I've got an
Mrs.
actual
T.
name to... Yeah, that's all right.
Mrs.
That's
Kit
fine.
Thompson.
Or you. That'll do.
Yeah, or you. So, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. This is not at all terrifying. Everything's fine.
You'll be fine. You're talking to me. There's no...
I'm happy that I could just see you. I'm going to pretend there's nobody else. We're good.
There isn't. Don't worry. It's just me and you. Apart from Kit, who says, "Good luck, lovely lady. You got this from your hubby downstairs."
He's on child duty. He gets to sort out anybody who cries in the next hour.
Does that include you too?
Yes. He's always on that duty. He's the fixer.
Oh, he's a good lad. Right. So, darling, tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Leanne Thompson?
That is a really good question. Who am I? I don't know. I am mother of three. I've got three children, little people. They're 4, 5 and 8. They keep me busy. I work 2 part-time jobs from home. Also keeps me busy. Used to do a bit of singing. Used to be in bands doing a little bit. Don't do that so much anymore. There's no time or energy. But hopefully one day we'll do it again.
You will. We're going to make sure you do.
Yeah, I'm almost ready now. Once I get my health straightened out, I'll be ready to get back out. That's about me, really. There's nothing else of interest.
I wouldn't say that, but we'll leave it there for now. Right, so let's delve back into the... we've got the recent past, which has been fairly horrendous from what you've been telling us.
Yeah.
And we can drift back even further to... For you, when did you notice things start to go awry?
Well, I didn't know in the beginning. So when I was around 14, when I got my periods, they were really heavy, really painful to the point where I would vomit. And I didn't know that wasn't right. I was just thought, wow, this is horrible. This is life now. Great. So, it was... I didn't know any different, so I just kind of struggled through for a while. But because the pain was so horrendous, my mum took me to see the doctor, and they put me on the combined pill, the contraceptive pill, to control that, to make it less heavy, less painful, which really helped. And I think that's actually looking back, I think that's what saved my fertility, because I was on it for such a long time and from so early. I think that's why I've been so lucky to have been able to have my 3 little people. So. So that did help. So a lot of it went away when I was on the pill. For a lot of my younger years, I didn't really have too many problems other than sort of being 14. And initially it's really hard because you're already at an awkward age. You feel uncomfortable in your own skin anyway. And then suddenly you're having to wear like practically a nappy to school. Yeah. Like that does wonders for your self-confidence. So all of that was really hard. And I was already really shy. Was very kind of reserved, uncomfortable with my own body. As young as, I don't know if you remember, I don't know if they did them. There used to be these checks when you were in like the infants, where they'd make you strip down to your pants and they'd weigh you. You'd all sort of stand in a line and they'd weigh you in school. Okay. And even back as far as I was really body conscious and hated those, and I refused to get undressed. My mum used to get phone calls. They probably thought I was like battered and bruised because I just refused to take my clothes off. So even as young as 3, 4 in school, I was already really self-conscious and like it was just uncomfortable. So talking about my body and things were really difficult for me. Even as a teenager, I still wasn't ready to do that. So I just kind of suffered a lot of it until I really couldn't, and then reached out. And so the pill really helped, and I think that bought me a lot of time and allowed me to have my little people. So the downside of that, the pill being a hormonal contraceptive, was that I really suffered with depression. It's written on the little bit of paper you get, but I don't think it really prepares you for how bad it can be. And a bit of a trigger warning for anyone who's susceptible, like, don't listen to this bit. But as much as I was never suicidal, I had sort of ideations of suicide. I felt very much that everyone was better off without me. I would think about the best way to do it that would be the best for everybody else. There was a lot of it just became a normal thing to feel that way and to think that way.
Yeah.
So that was sort of 14, 15, 16. So it was, they're hard years anyway. But to have those feelings was really tough. So I wasn't particularly kind to myself. So I think that I probably suffered with my mental health more than anything else through my teen years as a result of being on the pill.
Yeah.
And I stayed on that for a long time. So I think poor Kit has had to, the dramas and the tantrums and the tears that he's had to put up with. He's a saint, that man. So the mood swings, that's been the hardest thing I think to live with because of that, rather than an actual symptom. So side effects have probably been worse.
How long have you two been together?
We've been together about 12 years.
Okay.
But we were for a long time before as well. So he's been around a long time. He's put up with me. But when I was 15, I started to get other symptoms. I've got Crohn's disease, I've got bowel disease. So the symptoms of that began when I was about 15, but it took until I was 18 to be diagnosed. So there was a lot going on. By the time I was diagnosed, I was really in a bad way. I was kind of stuck at home, couldn't go to school, couldn't really do anything. So there was that as well. So I'm ever so healthy.
Yeah, it sounds a great barrel of laughs.
Yeah, it has been hard. So I was on the pill until after we got married and decided to have children. So I think that brought me a lot of years kind of symptom-free, pain-free. And then we had our first Ollie a year after we got married. And I went back on the pill again afterwards. And again, it was just the mental health aspect, the mood swings, postnatal depression. There's all of that to deal with. So I was very conscious of how it made me feel. So there were lots of sort of highs and lows, but it was fine. It was all manageable. Didn't get as bad as it did in the early days in my teen years. I think it did get easier as I got older. And then when we had Piper, I had difficulties with my Crohn's medications. So there was lots of changes there because the treatments, every time I had a child, my body changed and I had a resistance to my medication. So I had a lot of years there where, although I might have had symptoms from endometriosis, I might have confused them with Crohn's because a lot of the pains would have been abdominal.
Yeah.
So there might have been things there that perhaps were missed along the way. But Aria, we then had Aria. So Piper was born in 2015, and then along came Aria in 2016.
Oh, you've been busy.
She was a beautiful surprise. I was back on the pill. We had a very ill Christmas one year. We all got a terrible sick bug over Christmas, and then we had a beautiful surprise Aria. I wouldn't change for the world, but it was quite the shock when she came along. So that my health changed after each one. So my Crohn's flared after each baby.
Yeah.
And then there's the recovery. And I think after Aria, that was probably when I had the first real symptoms, because after you have given birth, you get after pain. So obviously your uterus and everything has grown. Have I lost signal? Everything's gone a bit blurry.
No, I probably look better like that.
No, I think it's just me. Maybe it's me blurry. I had my infusions today. It could just be that. So what was I talking about? What was I saying?
You said after each child.
After Aria.
Yeah.
Yes. So after you've given birth, you get, not only have you've not gone through enough, like you continue to suffer because you get after pain. So every time, I breastfed all of them, and every time you feed, you get those really intense contractions. It's like you have to go through labour all over again.
Oh,
so
God.
With the first one, they were kind of bad, but fine. And then I had my second child, Piper. It was kind of bad, but fine. But after Aria, those pains were so intense. I'd feel sick. I'd feel dizzy. They were like really painful pains, not like the other two. So I think that was probably the turning point of where I started to think things aren't quite right, because this hurts way more than it should hurt. And I didn't go back on the pill because, again, the mental health aspect. I was then run down, had 3 children. I was like, I can't be dealing with feeling that low anymore. So I didn't go back on the pill. Decided that was the end of that. And there's the risks and the side effects of being on the pill for so long as well. You're at high risk of cancer. So that was another consideration. It had been a lot of years. I didn't really want to risk that again. So so that's when I really started to suffer, I think. So she was born 2016, and that's when I had like the pains, the cramping. Again, I was really heavy, so I was anemic all the time because I was losing so much blood. And it just gradually got worse to the point where I started getting ovulation pain. So not only was I getting pain when I was due on, halfway through my cycle, I'd get like 2 weeks, I'd get more pain to the point where I couldn't stand up, couldn't stand up straight, couldn't walk. So it was like I'd lose another 2 or 3 days initially of the month that I still couldn't move. And that just got worse, and it became more days of pain than no pain. which is quite difficult. Trying to work, trying to do everyday things like take the kids to school. There were days, Kit was trying to work and pay the bills, and I can't drive today. I can't stand up today. I need you to take the kids to school. So it has an impact on everyone. So it was pretty bad. And I went to the GP and said things like, right, I've got irregular bleeding, I've got a lot of pain. And they checked my hormone levels and said, oh, everything seems okay. So, there's not a lot we can do. Off you go, have a paracetamol. I went to the GP a lot of times. I went to A&E. 3 times I've been to A&E. And I've been in so much pain. They've given me Oromorph while I was there.
Yeah.
And then sent me with cocodamol. I think the most I've ever been given is tramadol. I was given 10 tablets of tramadol while I was waiting to see a specialist. Nothing touched it. The pain is just, I've lived with pain anyway from my Crohn's.
Yeah.
And you can't get used to it. And I like to just get on with things. I just think, it hurts, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's not going to stop me. And I like to do things. I still make plans and get on with it. But this pain has been completely stops you in your tracks. Can't do anything. Can't get up. Can't function. So, yeah, it got really bad.
So I would have thought then, as you say, after having the Crohn's, you probably have quite a high pain threshold anyway.
Yeah, but the downside of that is every time I went and said, I've got this pain, oh, it must be your Crohn's. And I'd be adamant, it's not my Crohn's, it's definitely not. And even when I went to, I finally got a referral to gynecology, and I saw the gynecologist and they said, oh, it's probably your Crohn's, we should send you back. It's not my Crohn's, it really isn't.
I think when you've lived with an illness like Crohn's for that long, you know what is Crohn's and what isn't.
Yeah. It was 2 years after the first GP's appointment that they finally even did a scan, and they put me in for an ultrasound. They said, oh, there is something, we're not sure, can we do an internal scan? Like, yep, find out what it is. Don't care what I have to go through, just find out what it is. They said at the time, on my right side, I had a 4 centimetre cyst and a mass that they weren't sure about, they thought was a fibroid, which I didn't really know much about. So that's what made them refer me to the specialist.
Right.
And when they said, oh, it's probably your Crohn's causing you all the pain. There is something, but it's not severe enough to do anything about. And then he had another look at the scans and he said, oh, you've got adenomyosis. Right, what's that? So there was no mention of endo at all at this point. It was just adenomyosis, which they explained to me was so where the lining of the womb builds up, they said it was building up in the muscle of the womb and not just where it was supposed to be. So every time that was breaking down, it was trying to break down muscle and couldn't. So they said that's why it was so painful. So they said the only way we can find out if you've got it is if you have a hysterectomy. We can find out after we've done that. But there's no way of actually 100% diagnosing it before then. But I'm pretty sure that's what you've got. Great, so what do we do? So the options he gave me were, they gave me, I've written it down because I never remember what it's called. They gave me something acid. Where is it?
Yeah, this has been mentioned.
Tranexamic acid.
That's
to
it.
clot the blood bleeding. And they gave me methylmenic acid for the pain. Neither did anything, didn't work. And within a month I phoned them and went, you've got to help me, I can't be in this much pain, this doesn't work. So they said they wanted to give me the coil. They said they'd give me the marine coil. Yeah, and I just thought, I don't want to go down the road of hormones. It was bad enough taking a pill. If this is something, and I'd had the implant before as well, and that did the same thing, mental health. It really had a huge impact, and I thought, I can't risk that because that's not something I can do anything about. So I refused that. They were quite adamant, and the GP said the same thing as well. I'll have the coil. No, thank you. They were really pushy on that, and they said the only other thing we can do is a hysterectomy. So at this point, I just had an ultrasound and an internal scan, and he said, well, it's that hysterectomy. And I was like, right, hysterectomy, please. Just, that's it, get rid of it. I can't, I'm really lucky to have had 3 children. Take it away. I can't live like this. So he said, okay, well, what we can do is give you these injections, gonopeptal injections, and they put you into a chemically induced menopause.
Okay.
So if the pain goes away, we know that surgery will work. You can have a hysterectomy and it should cure your pain. If the pain still stays when you have these injections, then it's probably your Crohn's. So we'll have to send you back to gastroenterology. Started the injections, and within 2 months, pain-free, symptom-free. It was like I got my life back. It was just such a difference. It was really huge, and I just thought, I need this operation, whatever it takes. But you can only have 4 of those injections at a time, because of the effect they have on your body. So I had the 4 injections. I had a phone consultation, and they said, yeah, okay, if they worked, we'll put you on the waiting list for a hysterectomy. It should be a month, 2 months, we'll let you know. but within a month I was back in agony, couldn't move, and I ended up in the situation that I did recently. So we'd half term we booked a caravan break with the kids, and I was already in pain before we left, but you have to make plans and get on with life anyway. You can't just sit at home, because I'd never go anywhere or do anything. So we went ahead with the holiday, but while I was there it was getting worse and worse, and every day I said to Kit, don't feel well, don't feel right. I'd phoned my specialist and said I need to do something. They said they would send me a prescription in the post for another lot of injections while I was waiting for my hysterectomy, but I couldn't wait. So I phoned my GP and she said, yep, if you come in we'll do the injection for you. So we just the holiday was a bit of a disaster anyway, so we drove home. My GP, I went in on a Friday morning to have my injection done, and while I was there she felt a mass and she said, that's not right. I said, that's what's causing me the pain. So she had a feel and she said, no, that's not right. And because she touched it, the pain was so bad I was trying not to be sick. And she said, how long have you had this pain for? I said, this severe, about a week. And she went, not happy with that, you need to go in. But even when she phoned the hospital and told them what was happening, I could hear they were so resistant. She just said, I'm not sending this patient home. You need to see her. I understand that, but I'm not sending her home. She's coming in to see you. So even then they were pushing back and saying not to send me in. So I went in, had another ultrasound scan, and they said, oh, that's not good. And they looked at my reports and said, well, your last scans showed a 4 centimetre cyst on the right side. And actually, this is looking more like sort of 10 centimetres on the other side. So there was something, but they didn't know what. They just kept saying a mass. So, of course, you think the worst, think, brilliant. So they said, oh, you need to have an MRI. So stay put, we'll get that done today. So I went for an injection first thing in the morning, was hanging around the hospital all day, and it started to get a bit dark, and it was just not happening. And eventually they came around and said, oh, you're going to have to stay in. It's not going to be done today. You'll have to wait. Only they didn't tell me at the time they meant wait till Monday. They wouldn't let me go home. They said if I went home I would lose my slot as an inpatient, and I'd have to wait weeks as an outpatient. So I had to stay in to wait for the scan. So I ended up admitted all over the weekend, and it wasn't a good time. It was really poor. There was next to no pain management. You had to beg every time there was a shift change. There was no record of what you'd had already. You were sort of just in agony. I was crying, screaming on my knees at one point, saying, "Please help me! I can't live like this." And it was, "Oh well, we've paged a doctor. They're all busy. Sorry." It was a really tough week. They did the MRI Monday morning, and I had surgery that night because it turned out to be a 12 centimetre cyst, and it had twisted my ovary. So they said I was
12
at risk
centimetres.
12 centimetres cyst, yeah. Well, an endometrioma, they said it was, which is like a blood-filled cyst. It's all very pleasant, isn't it? It's all very glamorous.
12 that's huge.
Yeah, and it had grown so fast, and it was still growing while I was there. And it because of where it was growing up on the left side, and it twisted the ovary round. So they said that's it's dangerous. We can't leave it. It's now emergency surgery, and you've got to have that done. So I had keyhole surgery on the Monday night, and the day of the surgery was pretty horrific. I wasn't in a good place. My pain was just off the chart. I was barely conscious most of the day. I couldn't call the kids, couldn't function that day at all. It was horrible. They did the surgery, and the next day I was like, I think I woke up. Well, I had the surgery about 6 in the evening. I went down. I woke up about 3 in the morning, sort of not really with it. They were doing all my observations and stuff. And by about 8 o'clock the next morning, I was dressed, packed my bags, ready to go. I was like, I'll be leaving now. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't wait to get out of that place. But it worked. For now, I'm pain free. They've restarted my injection. So at the moment, I'm back in chemical menopause. I am almost symptom free. I'm still uncomfortable because it's still early days. But yeah. I know I'm going to have the next few months to live my life again, which is really good. But yeah, it's hard to live with.
We've got so we'll come back to that. We've got a few comments and various. Where's my mouse gone? There it is. Annie Humphrey says hello, gorgeous. By the way.
Hello, beautiful.
And Mandy Woodley, is that a friend of yours?
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Good luck, Leanne. Kit says those A&E visits were as a result of Leanne passing out. The pain was so intense. Literally blacking out and being unconscious, it was terrifying to watch her suffer and felt so helpless. It's one of the things. I'll come to this because we've got a few other things. Carrie says she was given tranexamic acid, which she refused to take because her mum and grandmother having deep vein thrombosis. Dion says, it's really interesting watching these interviews. Leanne sounds very similar to me. And your situation and Dion's, again, with the Crohn's and the endometriosis and the amount of pain that you've both been in, the stories are almost identical in a way.
Yeah.
Dion has 2 chocolate cysts. I didn't realise you could get them in chocolate.
That's what they removed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what they removed from me. That's an endometrioma.
Ah, right. One the size of a grapefruit, apparently. So, yeah, this just... Again, when I hear these stories, and you are one of the main reasons why we started doing these interviews, because obviously getting the field reports from the front lines from you while you're in hospital... Because obviously we can't...
I don't normally doom and gloom. I always like to try and find the bright side, and I always try and put a funny spin on things. I mean, I've had a blog and stuff. We've been through a lot as a family. There's been lots of things, and I always try and find the funny side and put a funny spin on things. But that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever been through. It was bad.
I think,
and it was from a place of desperation. Like, somebody do something. Things are so bad, and it's taking it. When my Crohn's pain is bad, people listen and they go, "Okay, that's not right. You know your body, we need to do something." But with this, it's like, have a paracetamol, get a hot water bottle on the go, you'll be all right. It's not all right. It's not okay, and it's not normal.
Well, that's a really good point. So why do you think, we've heard in other interviews different opinions of why endometriosis doesn't seem to be taken in the same way as other chronic illnesses. So in your opinion and your experience, what do you feel is the reason why this is treated or not treated in this way?
I don't know. I don't know if it comes from years of it being taboo and not being talked about, and it being one of those things that's, years ago I wouldn't have talked about it. It's just not something I would have been comfortable discussing. Having 3 kids will remove your dignity, so I no longer care. And I will talk about anything now. So maybe it's from that. Maybe it's because women from generations before have just suffered it, because it's just something, it just wasn't talked about, wasn't dealt with, wasn't managed, and it's just become the norm. I don't know. It could be that, my mum and my nan might have suffered the same things and just had to get on with it. So it's something you just think is normal when you don't. Like I said, at 14, 15, I wasn't up for talking about it. I wasn't, going to go and sit and have a chat with the doctor about how bad things were. I just kind of went, yeah, no, that's fine. I'll just get on with it because it was easier. So maybe it's that. Not sure.
I can't think of any other illness or ailment, syndrome, whatever you want to call it, where a person can be in so much agony and pain, but yet just sort of be fobbed off or just sent back home. Nothing that I can...
The professionals, it's been just luck as to who I've seen. There have been times when I've seen GPs and they've just kind of dismissed me and just gone, oh, well, go for a walk, get some exercise, that will help you. I can't stand up, lady, I can't go for a...
I would, but I keep passing out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I could stay conscious, I'd love to go for a hike. But it was just luck that day I saw a doctor who went, you can't be in this much pain, this isn't right. And I've been in that much pain and sat there crying and said, please help me, I can't live like this. And they've just dismissed it and gone, oh, well, I'll make a referral, here's some cocodamol. And that doctor just happened to be bloody brilliant and go, this isn't right, I'm not letting you go home like this. And she, did something about it, and I'm really thankful. But it does seem to be pot luck as to who you see, as to how, whether you're taken seriously or not.
Do you think a lot of it may be to do with the fact that it's still a relatively unknown illness? They don't know much about it. It's hard to diagnose, because it seems from the stories we've had so far that you need an MRI scan. I can't remember the probing procedure. Laparoscopy, ultrasounds. These seem to be the main things that can detect if something's going wrong.
They didn't. I'd had ultrasounds, and they said, other than initially that small cyst and the fibroid, they said nothing out of the ordinary. We can't see anything. But on those scans alone, they were willing to let me have a hysterectomy. There was no kind of follow-up. So this was like, they were over a year old when I was put on the waiting list for hysterectomy. And it's only that I had this emergency that they actually did the keyhole surgery. And when they were there, they said to me afterwards, had you come in for hysterectomy, we'd have sent you home again because we can't do it. So what they found now is they've said I've got stage 4 endometriosis. So it's as severe as it gets. But they said when they removed the cyst, they found that everything is now one mass. So my uterus, my bladder, my bowel is all now, there's so many adhesions that it's just one mass, so they can't just do a hysterectomy. It's not straightforward anymore, so I'm waiting for a specialist surgeon to agree to take me on. It's looking like I'm going to have to go to London to get that done now, so potentially I'm looking at bladder and bowel reconstruction as well, because it's that bad now. But I don't know when it got that bad, because they only did those one scans, and those things don't show up on ultrasound, so it could have been that bad for years. It could be, I don't know, it could have been going on a really long time, and it's just not been noticed.
It sounds like pretty much the same story as Alex when she was talking about hers, having everything was fused together. She had to have bowel and I think bladder reconstruction as well.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that...
so that's what I'm looking at next.
Yeah, the fact that it can be allowed to get to this stage, literally to the point where there's no other option. I mean, one of the things that it seems that some people really have to push to get a hysterectomy, because I suppose from a doctor's point of view, that's kind of the final stage where once you've gone past that point, there's no, I suppose, real other treatment. The person can't then have children, etc., and all those things. But do you think yours was pushed through so quickly because you've had 3 kids? So in a way, in terms of the medical profession, a women's duty, you've done your part. So now we can...
Yeah. I mean, probably. I did still have to push a little bit, because although, I've had children, I'm 36. Feels old now, but I'm 40. Still 36.
Deal with it.
They said, they did say, you're a bit young really for that. We'd like to do other things first. And age aside, I've had 3 children. I've been really lucky to have 3 children, and 2 of my children have got special needs. So I need to be functioning. I need to be there for them, and I can't function. I can't, 2 of my children are autistic, so autism needs schedule. Like they both need schedule in life, and that schedule has been me. And suddenly I couldn't climb the stairs to put them to bed, so the whole night's ruined. I couldn't take them to school, so that throws their whole day out, and it's not fair on them either. So part of it was that I did have to really sort of make my case and go, this isn't just affecting me, it's affecting my children and all of us. Like, my husband can't work because he's now doing all the things I should be doing because I can't do it. So we did still have to put up a real fight for them to okay it. But it does sound like I got that okay easier than a lot of women seem to, which probably is to do with having already had children.
Yeah, that's again, this comes back to the whole thing, I think, doesn't it, where one of what Alex's consultant said, and it's a woman's choice of what she does with her own body. Well, it seems to be that you're going through all these extreme pains, and a lot of people, they're fighting to get treatment, but the doctors seem to rule out the fact that you have any choice in what treatment you have. It's, well, no, you haven't had children yet, so I think you should just keep putting up with it for a while, just in case. It just seems absolutely insane.
Yeah. I mean, even the GP, when I first saw my GP, and she said, oh, you should have the Marina coil. And I said, oh, no, thanks, that's not for me. She went, well, you should, that would solve the problem. So, but that's not what I want, because that has other impacts for me, so that's not an option. And I left that appointment with a prescription for the coil to go and get it, because she was so adamant that I just took the prescription and left, because I thought, I'm not getting anywhere, you're not going to stop. So I just took it and went, and I obviously never got it. But I wasn't getting anywhere. She wasn't listening. She just wasn't the right doctor. But she was actually the women's health specialist at my GP surgery, and that was the attitude.
But again, it's why do people seem to have to hunt around to find the right doctor who's willing to listen? Again, this is another... From a male perspective who's never had to deal with, I'm happy to pronounce my male privilege on this. The fact that we do not have to go through anything nearly as horrendous as this. And I've said before in interviews, I've been treated really well by the NHS, and when it comes to various scans and things, I can't envision anything along these lines. And again, why are there why are decent doctors who are willing to listen and accept that this is out there and this is a problem so few and far between? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think you get that across all fields, though, because I've had the same thing with my mental health. There's been sometimes I've gone to a doctor and gone, things aren't right, I'm in a bad place. I've been told to pick up a hobby, go for walks in my lunch break. Like, I'm telling you that I'm in a bad place and you need to do something, and you're telling me to go for a walk. So, and there's other doctors that just go, yeah, okay, if you say this isn't right, what can we do for you? How can we help you? Do you want counselling? Do you want to start medication? What do you want to do? So it just depends. Again, some take you seriously, some don't. And it was the same with my Crohn's initially. One of the doctors we saw, one of the many doctors, told my mum that I had an eating disorder to put me into clinic. I was like, dude, I'd love to eat a burger. I'm telling you, I'm being sick.
Yeah.
And you're telling me I've got an eating disorder. Help me out. So it doesn't seem to be justice. I think it does vary. It just depends who you see, what they specialise in, and I think their own experiences and attitudes do have an impact on what they do as a doctor, which I don't think should be the case, but does seem to be.
Yeah, I suppose you're dealing with human beings, aren't you? And we are an incredibly fallible species. Do you think that in the history of you having this and the treatment or lack of treatment you've received, was there ever a key point you think that if it had been spotted at that point or diagnosed earlier, that there could have been a better outcome? Or do you feel that the hysterectomy was always the inevitable?
It might have been, but I think I would have been spared the emergency surgery and the trauma. Let's call it what it was. It was traumatic being in for that week. So it would have spared me the trauma, the emergency surgery. I mean, and my kids, they had to go through a week with suddenly, there was no planning. Like, planning is everything in our household. And suddenly, I went for an appointment. Now every time I leave the house, they go, where are you going? Are you coming back? Are you going to be here? Are you going to be in hospital? So there's still all that anxiety as a result. So had I been taken seriously the first time I went to the doctors and said, this isn't right, I'm bleeding every day, I'm in pain, something isn't right, had they done a scan there and then, and when they saw a mass and said, we think it's a fibroid, we don't know.
Yeah.
Why is that okay? Why don't you go, okay, you need an MRI, let's know what's going on. Let's not just be not sure. Let's find out. Then potentially, perhaps 2 years ago I could have had my hysterectomy by now. I might not be in the state I'm in now. It might not have progressed so much. I don't know, because they never checked.
This is, again, that was something I wanted to touch on, actually, was when you said when they first discovered the mass. Now, I can't think, obviously, I'm not a doctor. I have a severe lack when it comes to the medical profession and knowledge. But in any other ailment, if you find a mass, that's something you investigate.
You want to know, yeah.
Yeah. So why is endometriosis any different? So
they did a CA125 test, which is the cancer antigen. That's what they look for. So they check your levels on that, and if it's less than, I forget what it is, I think it's less than, I don't know if it's 49, something like that, but if it's below their marker, then they just go, it's not that, you're fine, which I would guess isn't always the case, but that was it. They checked that marker, that was beneath their sort of red flag, so that was it, it's okay to leave. So they just leave you wondering. But there's been a real lack of communication as well. I've had to ring and chase for everything to find out, even to know. So 2 weeks ago I came out of hospital, and it was only this week that I was ringing them and saying, can I at least have a consultation? Can you tell me, have I still got my ovary? Did you take it out? Did you just take the mass? What happened? Like, what does that mean for me now?
Yeah.
And it's only then that they said, oh yeah, no, you're stage 4, we're trying to find a surgeon for you. You might have to go to London. It's only because I chased it. I'd still know nothing today if I hadn't been chasing them. So
again, similar story to Alex. She had to chase, otherwise they maybe wouldn't have contacted. Again, it's just, there are so many similarities. I mean, we've only done 3 interviews so far, but
yeah, and I've sat here just nodding, going, yep, that's familiar.
Yep.
So there's so many of us through it.
And I'm sure the upcoming interviews we're going to hear pretty much the same stories as well. Something I did want to touch on, which is quite important, because obviously when you're in extreme pain, you're going through an absolute physical and emotional hell. This obviously has an effect, especially in your situation where you have autistic children, the effect it has on your family and your partner. So for Mr. Kit, who's still listening, because he's a very, very dutiful husband, what was it like for him to obviously have to not deal with you is absolutely the wrong term, but obviously the strain it can put. Okay, but the strain it can put a relationship under, everything that goes along with that.
Traditional roles in our relationship, because I tend to do the children and the house stuff, and he has the odd the blue jobs, and he goes to work and has the money. And when I couldn't do my jobs, like we've always said, we've got this thing like the kids call us Team Thompson, because we've all got our roles, we all do our bit, and it works as a team. And that's like, sometimes we go through some real shit, and we just go, it's teamwork that gets us through it. If we weren't all in this together, we don't know how we get through it. And suddenly that team was broken. Like I couldn't do anything, and he had to not only sort of still work enough to earn money to pay the bills, he also had to deal with everything else that I couldn't do. So, and it's horrible to feel like a burden. I know he would never say that. And I know that if it was the other way around, I wouldn't think twice.
Yeah,
and of course. I do all the things, and I wouldn't think twice, and I wouldn't think of him that way. But it's really hard to not think of yourself that way when you want to just get on and do things, and you can't. Even now, like I'm still recovering. There's things I still want to, even like driving hurts, hoovering hurts, little things. But it's so frustrating because I'm a doer. I just get on and do things, and to actually be physically stopped from doing things is really hard.
Yeah.
And there is the emotional impact of that as well. Like I'm always a crier, but now I'm like worse than ever. Like you just need a Christmas advert, and that's me. Set me off. So
we're all like that. Really... That's just the joys of becoming emotional and getting older.
We'll all cry over the McDonald's advert, shall we? That's a big one. So it's been really hard for me to watch him have to do everything and to see how tired he is. It's horrible because I know how tired I am just from doing that, and he's still working and doing all the things. So yeah, it's really hard. It's hard to feel like I'm putting on everyone, and the kids like, oh, can you come upstairs and read me a story? I'm just, I can't. Can we do a story downstairs? But you always read a story on my bed, like, oh, the guilt. But I just haven't been able to, so it's really hard. And not just Kit either. It's everything, family and friends. You try and make plans because life doesn't just stop, and you want to do stuff. And there's been times like Annie and her lovely frogs had a gig in Southend, and we're like, brilliant. I really want to go. Like, I'd love to go and see them. I think at that point, we only knew Annie online.
Yeah.
So I'd love to go and meet her and see the band. And we made it, but I could barely walk, and I shuffled in like I could have been 90 odd. I was a little old dear just shuffling into my seat, and I couldn't, I wanted to go. I didn't want to be a letdown, and it's really hard to make plans and be that unreliable person that at the last minute goes, actually, I can't, sorry. And it just, sometimes you think, oh, they're flaky, they never turn up, but with the best will in the world, you want to do these things and you want to plan and do them, and sometimes you can't. I mean, even your gig, we crashed your birthday gig. Sorry about that. Thank you.
There was no crash involved. It was a pleasure to have you.
It was the best night. It really was. But even that, like I'd messaged you, I'd spoken to, because that week, planning for it was fine. I was, we were all up for it. And then that week, I suddenly had the worst pains, and I just thought, how am I going to do this? I don't know how I'm going to function. And I'd messaged Lauren and Annie and said, if the worst happens, can you please pick up my slot? Can you sing for me? Because if I can't get up, I can't do it. And I didn't know you very well at all. And I'd messaged you and said, I'm not very well. If I can't do it, I've got backup. But you don't want to be a letdown. You want to make plans and do things. And I was really looking forward to it, but I didn't even know. And that night, it was actually really bad. I managed to get somebody else's Oromorph because I wasn't getting any pain relief of my own. There was no help, so I managed to get some. I'm not going to reveal my sources, but that is the only way I was functioning, and that is what got me in the car and to make the journey. And I was taking that before I got up on stage, and I was in a world of pain and struggling to even stand upright. But do you know what? I had the best time, and I'm so glad I did it. Sometimes you just have to push through and do it. And thanks to Andy as well, I've got that brilliant picture that's now up on my wall, and that is my boss bitch picture. So when I'm having a rough day, I get to look at that picture and go, do you know what? You're in a world of pain and you still did that. And it's those things that you think, yeah, did it anyway, and that's what gets you through. So sometimes you have to just kind of get on with it anyway, and just get through it. And I still
think though, if you knowing obviously what you've suffered now, if I'd have known that back at the time when you'd gone, yeah, Mike, I'm in a bit of pain, or I'm not feeling very well at the moment, and then told me what you're going through, I would have been, no, I don't care how much you want to come. You're staying at home with a hot water bottle and as much morphine as we can pump into you.
But you were so nice about it. You just went, yeah, fine, whatever. Like, if you can do it, great. If you can't, and it's that helps people's attitudes, being understanding, and so if you've got a mate who's a bit flaky, there might be more to it. Just be kind, because it can make or break someone. I think on those days you don't always know what someone's going through, so it's just nice to be sort of forgiving of those things.
Do you think, obviously, with what you were talking about earlier, when it were talking about something like this, sort of at a young age, you didn't feel comfortable talking about it. Do you think one of the reasons, because people don't talk about it, say, I had no idea that this was the kind of thing you were experiencing and going through. Is this one of the big problems? Because it's a personal nature, it involves your genitals and all the plumbing that goes along with it. Is this one of the reasons why people don't talk about it? So therefore people haven't really got any comprehension of it?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, obviously, not knowing you very well then, I'd have happily sort of rung you and gone, I've broken my leg, I can't get up on stage. I'm
Yeah.
not going to ring you and go, yeah, I'm doubled over with pain and my box hurts, I'm not going to stand on stage, sorry. So
My
you go,
box
you don't,
hurts.
you don't, can you not make this the highlights, please? Cut that bit out. Yeah, you don't say those things, you know,
No.
I mean, some of us do, I do, clearly, but most people don't, you don't have those conversations, so
Well, I suppose
yeah,
it's
that's probably
men generally don't. There's the whole campaign, isn't there, about men talking about testicular cancer or various things. It's something that men don't talk about. But
yeah,
it's
I think
if,
so.
if we need people to understand these things and know that this is well, again, I think they said it's
Yeah.
1 in 10 women apparently who suffer with this. So
I think it was it Carrie that said about the cell changes as well when she had a smear test. I think it was Carrie, because that's something else I had when I first
HPV?
we had to end up. Yeah.
Yes.
So when we got married, we ended up moving our wedding forward a month because I'd been for my it was actually my first ever smear test. It was late because I, again, body conscious, self conscious, didn't want to go, which was really stupid. Like, it could have ended really differently. But because I felt embarrassed and I wasn't comfortable enough to go, I put it off, and then Kit nagged me. Bless him. He's just like, just go, get on with it. You're going, like, make yourself go.
Yeah.
So off I went. And found out I had SIN3, so I had severe dyskaryosis. So they'd found precancerous cell changes.
Oh, okay.
So I had to have laser treatment. So they laser the cells off of your cervix. They laser the cells off your cervix. So I had to have that done. And they said, oh, you can't travel. And we had our wedding coming up, and they said, we're not going to leave it longer than sort of 6 weeks. I was like, oh, I'm getting married in a couple of months. And they went, well, we just didn't want to hang it over us. So we decided to move the wedding up, get married, and deal with it afterwards. So we did. We had the best day. It was like a little registry office. So it wasn't like a huge thing to rearrange. But that was another thing. Again, I don't know if it's related. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but that's another thing. I don't know if the two are related, but
It seems to be a lot of similarities with these kind of things, that one thing leading to another, and the progression. I know from what I've learnt so far is that endo is, as much as I say it's a very individual illness, there's a lot of commonality between what happens, I think, in the later stages at least. The early stages can be very subjective. But when you're getting to your stage 3, stage 4, from what we've heard so far, that's just when everything seems to be, everything's fusing together, and you've only really got one option left.
Yeah. I mean, now I'm at the stage where, everything hurts. It hurts to go to the loo, it hurts even to wee, it hurts all the way down my legs, all the way up to my ribs. Everything hurts. I get migraines, maybe they're related, I don't know. So there's things that could be side effects of other medications I'm on, or could be related to this, and I just don't know. I might never know. But the pain is everywhere. When the pain's bad, it's everywhere. But it wasn't always the case. When it, had it been stopped when I first flagged it, might not have got to this stage.
We've got a few more bits and bobs on the old chat. Let's just have a quick look, see what's going on. A few singing praises. Yep, you are Wonder Woman to everybody at the moment. Mandy, is that Mandy or Mandel?
Mandy.
It looks like Mandel from here on my chat. Mandy Woodley, such a strong woman. Kiss, kiss. Kit, just heartbreaking. The person you love the most in the worst agony imaginable, and you are helpless. Frustrating, hating the system for being broken, wanting justice for Leanne and every woman suffering. I can agree with that. There's, especially if you're, again, I'm not going to stereotype when it comes to men and women because everybody's different. But I know a lot of men tend to be a problem-solving kind of people who, there's a problem, we need to find a way to solve it, and when you can't, so from a partner's point of view, the absolute feeling of being completely helpless. And just, I mean, I've seen Carrie in various amounts of pain, and you just sit there thinking, what can I do? Should we go to A&E? That's the only thing that you can feasibly do. I can drive you somewhere.
Drive you there.
That's it. I can't do anything else.
anything. That is the hardest part. Nobody can do anything. And I felt bad for Kit when I was in hospital and ringing him, going, "Come and get me. This is, they're just leaving me to suffer. Come and get me." And obviously he wasn't going to come and get me because I needed to be there.
Yeah.
But he's dealing with me screaming at me, going, "That's it. I've had enough. Come and get me." Like, "Why would you come and get me?" So he's put up with a lot. He really has. Like, all the mood swings, all the tears, and he just endlessly just supports.
Oh, he's a good boy. We've had TL says, Kit was saying about you being on stage. She couldn't stand before she got on stage that night. So again, kudos to you, my darling. You did it. The fact that, especially being a singer, singing when you're in that much pain must have been horrific.
There's some pitchy bits. Don't watch it back. But yeah, it's tough. But then I miss singing. I do miss singing. There was a lot of reasons I couldn't do it anymore. I was in a lot of pain. I was very tired. Having 3 children alone, I was, very tired. But I do miss that. That was the only time I was me, because you kind of, when you have kids, you kind of lose your identity a bit. You just become mum all the time. So, I'm just called Mrs. T or mum. Like, I forget. There was no me for a while. And singing was the one time I got to be myself, get up on that stage and have a shout. And it's almost like therapy. And I kind of needed that. So not being in a band for a while has been really hard. So definitely ready to start doing something again when I'm well enough to do it. I think it's really important.
Everyone, you heard that. That is a contract written on YouTube. Make it happen.
Unwritten, it counts.
TL says, I suppose how women's issues are made almost... Hang on, let me try and actually read that properly. I suppose how women issues are made almost shameful is a big part of the suffering. Hell, over here you can't hardly get a man to buy tampons. It is still... I don't understand why. It's still such a big taboo. The whole women's problems. It's kind of ridiculous in the year 2020, really. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'll find Kit, bless him, FaceTiming me from, which one is this, the right one?
Yeah.
Like, it's not a thing for us. But again, I think being an autistic family, everything's very clear cut, straight talking. You don't talk around anything. So we've got that in our favour. Everything is kind of black and white. We answer questions sort of.
A very fact-based family.
Yeah. So, if you ask a question, you're going to get a very honest answer, and you have to get used to honesty, brutal honesty.
I like it. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, it works well.
Yep, the body. Dion says the body aches, glands coming up, migraines, etc. All responses to the inflammation caused by endo. Such a difficult thing to live through. Carrie says, I mean, me, Alex, Dion, and Leanne can all have an endo band.
Right, let's do it.
All of you all screaming and doubled over in pain on stage and off your tits on morphine.
Sounds like fun. I mean,
yeah, why not? They're talking about being in a band now. That's it. Let's set them off for the rest of the evening.
As long as I'm included, please.
Of course. So, where do you think, from the information you have now, and I know you touched on it a little bit, what happens now for you? So, as you said, do they need to test more before they take things further?
I'm just waiting. From what they've said most recently, so I'm back on my injections. I've had the first injection. The second one is next week. And after that, I will only have 2 more injections. And this is my second round. So they've already said you can only have 1 round. But because of the state I'm in, to stop it progressing, they've said you can have a second round while you're waiting for hysterectomy. So I've only got 4, maybe 5 months before I'm back in a world of pain and don't know what's next. So hopefully they will book something in that time. But they've said there's one specialist at South End Hospital who is capable of doing, they said it's a specialist surgery.
Right.
So the one surgeon that can do it, they have asked. Apparently he hasn't responded. So they said they'll chase him again. I haven't got high hopes. Other than that, I'm off to UCL, I think they said. So it's just a wait. They've got backlogs from COVID. She just said, don't know timescale. So, not sure. I don't know what images they've got. They did an MRI, so they've got that, and they've got whatever they found when they did the keyhole surgery to remove the endometrioma. So whatever imaging they took from that and from the MRI is what they've got currently. I don't know if they're going to do any more. I mean, bearing in mind they were going to do my hysterectomy with just an ultrasound that was over a year old.
Yeah.
I would like to think they're going to do more before they actually go in for the op, but I don't know. I'm just waiting. They've got no idea of timescale. I don't know. I'm just left in the dark at the moment, just wondering and hoping it doesn't get that bad again.
All right, darling. Well, we wish you all the best. And
Thanks.
just want to say massive thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us.
Thank you. It's only going to get easier by people talking about it. If we don't all get a bit uncomfortable and get used to hearing about these things, then it's never going to be the norm. So thank you for doing this. It does mean a lot. It's nice to know, it's not nice to know other people are going through it, but it's nice to be able to relate to other people and just go, oh, it's not just me. Like, there's all of us. We need to do something. And if anyone out there is having even the mildest of symptoms, just be pushy, like ask for that scan, make them do that scan. Don't be fobbed off. Just put your foot down and say, I'm not going anywhere till you help me, because you don't want to end up where I am now. I mean, I just want to get my surgery over. I'm not worried about it. I know whatever needs to be done just needs to happen so I can get my life back now. I'm busy.
Well, at least you have at least you've got a definitive diagnosis now. So that there's no hiding from it now.
Emergency surgery. If they hadn't done that, I still wouldn't have the right diagnosis, because they said adenomyosis. So it's only because I had an emergency I've got the diagnosis, and it's stage 4. So it's just crazy. But yeah, keep pushing and keep asking, demanding the help that is needed. It's deserved.
All right, my lovely. You take care. Give our love to Kit. Give him a little nipple tickle from me.
I will. I'll give him a squidge.
Oh,
you take care. And
excellent.
Carrie.
Will do.
Carry a squidge.
All right.
Take care. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye-bye.